and the emanated, and through it, the kav, the mitzel, and the netzel, which means the source of where existence comes out of, and that which exists, that which is emanated from the source, can be connected, can cleave together. And this alone is the connection. In other words, this idea of this kav is ultimately, if we want to draw from the source, we got to go through the kav. We got to go through this ray of light, because that which is partially creator and partially created. On one end, it's the creator. It's drawing from the infinite. And the other end, it's coming into the creation. And even though, I'm on the next paragraph, all that emanated is round, because we talked about this circle, right? So everything that comes out is coming out into this circle. And the light of the infinite one that surrounds it equally from all sides, meaning if you want to talk about the light that surrounds everything, you have to understand also, if you're in the middle of the circle, there's a light on the sides, even though it's not, again, it's just a metaphor, but it's still this, and actually there's a question of how much of a metaphor it is. The head of the kav, nevertheless, that place that is cleaving to it, meaning the kav, the ray, to the Or Ein Sof, that the head of the kav draws its light from that place. It is called the head of the emanated in its highest aspects. In other words, that place that the higher part of the kav that's most connected to the source is the higher part, is the head. And whatever is drawn down and descends below is called the lower part. In other words, since we're measuring in terms of top and bottom, once the ray of light begins to penetrate into this void, based on where in the ray it is an approximation to the source, to the surrounding light, that's more the head of the kav, that's more closely identified with the infinite aspects of the light that it takes from the source, versus as it descends lower, it becomes further away from the source light. It enters more into the void. And whatever is drawn down and descends below is called the lower part of that which emanated. And through this there is a higher and lower. It should be through this there is a higher and lower aspect of what was emanated. For if not for this, there would be no higher or lower head or feet in that which was created. So now it's explaining that there has to be also the idea of not just equality. The circle represents everything being equal distance. The line represents a top and a bottom. Because again, even though it's a line, it's not a line that goes all the way through. What do you call that in mathematics when there's a line that doesn't keep going? I forgot. I did this in high school. It's been a long time. But so this line is, there's a beginning of the line. That's the source. It begins in the Or Ein Sof. It's connected on its head with the Or Ein Sof. And it descends into the lower aspects of this emptiness, not all the way through, as he said before, but and in its descent, it signifies the idea, the base, what will be the source of higher and lower levels of olamot, as they're going to be called, worlds, or you could, in the modern vernacular, you could say, to make it more personal, states of consciousness, possibly, although that's arguable whether that's the proper terminology for these olamot. But that's how we would use them in terms of mystical, meditative practices. So without it, there would be no higher or lower head or feet in that which was created. The light that is drawn down and expands, are you guys getting this? You should already all know this. Right? Who here already read this text? Or something like very similar to it? In this lifetime. Not this actual text. I doubt very many people here actually read. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go quickly through it because I'm going to assume that some of the people who didn't read it, I'm going to come back with the notes, it's going to explain a lot of it. Okay? So even if you don't understand everything, that's okay. The light that is drawn down and expands, as I'm in the next paragraph now, that it expands within this vacuum is divided into two categories. The first one is that all the light that is found within this vacuum must be in circles that are encircling one another. In other words, even though, yes, it emanated out, I'm so tempted to take a Sharpie, but they're going to owe them thousands of dollars. No, I need a piece of paper here, because I'm not going to write on their smart board with the yeah. Well, I don't need that many. We'll just take two. Basically, I'm just going to draw pictures. You know, you guys can all doodle if you want. No. Okay. So what you have here is like this. You've got this is like the Or Ein Sof. It's everywhere. And then God contracted the Or Ein Sof, this empty void. As we'll see, the Kabbalah will say it's not as empty as we think it is. It's empty, like relative to what was there before. And then into this empty void, he emanates this ray of light. Very thin, very, again, it goes down, but it doesn't go all the way down. It doesn't go all the way through here. And then he says, from here begins to emanate these kind of circles, and so on. And keep going, keep making these circles. So these are called igulim. Igulim means literally a circle. So there's going to be a series of these circles, and that's one form of the universe, of the spiritual universe, as well as our physical universe. In fact, there's a Talmud in Yerushalmi that says that when God created the universe, everything was in circles. And then when he created Adam, Adam started making lines. What is the Talmud talking about? And we're going to get back to that. Let's go a little further. So he says there's two categories. We're talking about the first one, which is the circular. I'm up to where it says note 4. The light that's found within this vacuum must be in circles that are encircling one another. Take, for example, the sphere of Keter, crown, which is one circle, and encircles within it another circle, which is the sphere of Chachma. Right? There's 10 spherot. The top sphere is Keter. Then the next sphere is Chachma. And similar to this, a total of 10 circles. So you have 10 circles. And that's only that's one. And then that begins again. It's not just 10, but 10 on one level, and then another 10, and another 10, based on the olamot. The first circle is the 10 sefirot of Arachanpin. You could skip the little parentheses there. Arachanpin is one of the Kabbalistic planes. And afterwards, within it, the 10 sefirot of Abba, which is associated with Chachma, with wisdom. So each one has 10 sefirot, 10 circles. A circle within each circle until the completion of all the circles that which was created. That was basically, we have this idea that we have the Chaya, Yechida and Chaya, Neshama, and the Ruach, and the Nefesh, the 5 levels of the soul. They're also associated with these, the Partsufim, the 5 levels of the kind of levels of the divine, aspects of the divine, and the 5 olamot, or the 4 olamot, and the atik or the arich, which is make 5 worlds. They're all identified on some level within each other. We'll come back to that, but just to say that there's like kind of these worlds that are being created, but their main element of creation is that there's a circular element to them. Again, if you don't understand it, that's fine. I'm on the bottom, about 4 lines from the end of the paragraph, the end of that page, which is 6. I'm not doing the notes yet. And each of these circles, there is a surrounding light that encircles the inner light. So it turns out that there is always an inner light and an outer light, and they are all on the level of circles. So it's not just 10 circles for each plane of existence. It's an inner and outer aspect, so it's really 20. And the second level, Bechina, just as the circular light emanated from this existence, a similar light also emanates from the Kav, the line, except that it is in a linear form. And it has within it Arech and Abba and Ima and Zer Ampin and Nukva, all the 5 that we described. All of them that are in Yosher, linear, like the image of a human. At this second level, the Torah calls Adam the image of the divine, because it is straight lines that extends itself in a way of lines. And almost all the Zohar and the Tikkunim only are talking about the level of Yosher, not Igulim, as we will explain. That's all we need for now. Okay, great. You guys were great. Okay, you can go. Okay, let's talk. Let me talk a little bit about this. Let's look at the. I'm going to skip note 1 and go to note 2. Note 1 is also of interest because it really talks about a variety of ways of understanding what the purpose of creation is. But that's too big a subject to really get into. So instead, we're going to go to note 2. Okay.